Hello, beautiful people. Today's story is about a gardener in the service of the king and a fig tree. This story is based on a parable Jesus told in Luke 13. In this interpretation, I connected this story with some things Jesus also said about bearing fruit in John 15. Jesus made it clear that his true followers would bear fruit. My goal with this story is to hold up a mirror to examine why some churchgoers are not bearing fruit. There might be some exaggeration, but the lines do reflect what I have heard and seen, and, honestly, what I myself have said and thought as part of church culture. That's enough introduction, I think. Long ago, in the great kingdom, there was a fig tree that was loved and tended to by a faithful gardener.
Hello, my beautiful fig tree. Have you got any fruit today? No? Well, that's okay. My beloved fig tree, I spoke to the king this morning, and I have a message straight from his heart to yours.
Here we go, another message from the king, as if we haven't all heard it before.
Probably something about how we need to do more or that we need to bear fruit.
Well, if he preaches about tithing again, I'm going to call a special board meeting about his salary. I think he's just in this for the money sometimes.
If there was a decent children's program at this fig tree, I might want to tithe.
How about some decent music? Maybe a bass guitar and some drums, and some songs that aren't older than my grandmother.
Those hymns have sustained the faith for generations. The church spent $200 on those hymnals in 1983, and we are going to use them.
I'll use them for a pillow while I sleep through this message.
We do need to do some things to keep our youth involved.
They need to respect the gardener and sit through his messages just like I've sat through messages every Sunday for years. And these young people need to respect their elders.
Oh, please.
You listen here. I know the things of God, and you need to stop complaining. Why? I have been in the way of the Lord for over 40 years.
Exactly, right in the way.
I'm so tired of hearing about what we should be doing for the king. Well, what about my needs? You know, the big fig tree in the next row over there has children's church for 2 different age groups and 6 different Sunday school classes.
We need to have some interesting Bible studies to bring people into midweek services.
Oh, no, I do not want to hear about Isaiah or Habib or any dusty old prophet.
That's Habakkuk, you little ingrate. And there are many great lessons in Isaiah.
Like what?
Well,
You know what the gardener said to me when I shared my concerns about the children's ministry? He said that maybe the king was giving me a desire to help with children's ministry. I think the children's pastor should be doing more. I come to church to have my needs met, not to work.
Yeah, what about my needs? The gardener ought to do something to get some more youth in here. Maybe if we had some games and snacks on youth night, we might see some hot chicks here.
you need to keep your mind on holy things in the fig tree.
Well, maybe we need a youth singles group to encourage them to date each other.
There's 6 guys and 2 girls in our youth group. How's that going to work?
In my day, there wasn't dating. A young man courted a young woman with devotion and sincerity.
And there were some miraculous 6-month pregnancies after a hurry-up wedding too.
You need to respect your elders.
One day, the king came by to get some figs from the fig tree.
Fig tree, the king is here with us today.
Oh, great. That's an extra hour.
I don't feel anything. How do we know the king is really here? How do we know he isn't just trying to push his feelings on us?
If the king really was here, I'm sure some things would get fixed, starting with Sunday school teachers that knew how to teach.
As you can probably guess, the fig tree had no fruit.
How is it that I have come these 3 years and this tree has produced no fruit? I know they want to. Maybe if I just encouraged them a little more, the tree would produce fruit. If they were truly joined to me, and I to them, they would produce lots of fruit. You know this. Yes, I'm sure they are trying, but the tree is not producing fruit. Cut it down. Why should it go on wasting the soil? Master, let the tree have 1 more year to produce fruit. Let me dig up the dirt around it and spread manure on it. Maybe the tree will have fruit on it next year. If it still does not produce after 1 year, then you can cut it down. 1 more year. Beloved fig tree, you need to produce fruit.
Fruit?
We're
We're
not
not here to produce fruit.
The gardener ought to do
If
something
there
to
was
get
I
some
think
more
he's
youth
just
in
in
here.
this for the money
How about
sometimes.
some decent music? Maybe a
I
bass
come to
guitar
You
and
need to
some
church
drums.
my
respect
needs
your
met,
elders.
not to work.
The hard question here is, am I bearing fruit? Based on what Jesus said and what Paul and others wrote, love and joy and peace would definitely be fruit that we should produce as Christians, as well as the fruit of new believers coming into the kingdom of God. If we are not producing fruit, we really need to check our relationship to the Father. Is lack of fruit that bad? Right before the parable of the fig tree, Jesus said, Contemporary English Version, "You can be sure that if you don't turn back to God, every one of you will also die." And this, when Jesus was speaking to his followers about bearing fruit, CEV. If you don't stay joined to me, you will be thrown away. You will be like dry branches that are gathered up and burned in a fire. Please, my fellow believers, let us commit every day to being joined to the Father and to bringing the fruit of His love, peace, and joy into this world. When we are full of God's love and forgiveness, when we share the hope of Jesus, the fruit of new believers will naturally follow.